So it's 5:30 and I'll start if that's okay. Craig, is that okay?
Yep, you're live and ready to go.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone for attending. I do apologise in advance if I cut out because my Wi-Fi seems to have some problems. But we have an apology from Councillor Ewan, so I'd like to move that we co-opt the Lord Mayor.
I'm happy to move that, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So we'll just move on to item number 2 on the agenda tonight, which is the confirmation of minutes. Can I have somebody move that?
Happy to move the minutes.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 3, which is consideration of supplementary items. And I don't think there are any, so we'll move on.
You probably should put the motion.
Put the motion.
I move.
Thank you. Are there any indications of pecuniary and conflicts of interest?
We just need a voting for the confirmation of minutes, Chair.
Oh, sorry, yes. So it was moved by Councillor Harvey.
I think so, and I vote yes.
Yes. Are there any no's?
I vote yes, but it's probably better if you just ask if people want to vote no.
Yes. Are there any no's? No? Thank you. Any indications of pecuniary and conflicts of interest? If there are none, I will move on to item number 5, transfer of agenda items. Would anybody like to transfer any items from the agenda?
No.
No, if there are none, we'll move on to number 6, the reports. 6.1, the 2020 Myer Hobart Christmas pageant. And before I do open the item for discussion, before we move it, I'll ask the director just to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I guess sadly, part of this report is self-explanatory. Given the situation that we find ourselves in, we don't feel it's appropriate for the council to continue on with the pageant this year. It was to have been the 40th Christmas pageant, so a significant milestone in the life of the city. So our proposal clearly is to defer the 40th and hopefully until next year. But in considering that, and in considering one of the key reasons that the city has supported the pageant over so many years, which is about supporting Christmas in the city and retail and business activity in the city, the team had a good look at, well, what are the options if we don't run a pageant? What things can we do to support business in the city in the lead up to Christmas instead that may be able to be much more agile, and hopefully we'll be able to comply with COVID restrictions, whatever they may be, as we go through into the run up to Christmas. And how can we support business to invite people into the city and have a range of small events that are flexible enough to cope with the restrictions as they are from time to time. So on that basis, Chair, the team has really come up, I think, with 2 great ideas. And that is, first of all, to look at a range of entertainment across the CBD in the lead up to Christmas. And you'll see we're suggesting a funding allocation for that amount. And then I think really importantly, Chair, the second part of our proposal is this idea of block parties. And in doing that, we would really like to encourage groups of businesses to get together. They might have an idea for their part of their street or for their part of their footpath, or if it's big enough for their part of their precinct. And this is not just for the CBD, this applies to the suburban shopping strips as well. But we would like to see groups of businesses get together and say, well, we want to block off our footpath, or maybe block off part of the street, or maybe take out some parking bays and have some activations that occur in the city in the lead up to Christmas. And what we're proposing is that the activation team here in council then can really help those groups of businesses pull something together. In fact, we would administer it. We need to make this easy on business. So this is not requiring groups of businesses to apply for a grant and to be auspiced and set up associations or what have you. What we would like to do is work with, and it could be as small as 3 businesses, Chair, getting together. We'd like to work with them, and then we will handle the procurement, the invoicing, the purchasing, and so on. So we make it easy for those businesses, and they can get on with doing what they need to do, and the city can get on with supporting them and making, hopefully, all of Hobart a really fun place this Christmas, despite everything that's gone on. So, Chair, that with those words of introduction, I'm very happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Director. I appreciate that. I'd like to now just put the motion, if someone could.
Yeah,
please.
I move the recommendations.
Thank you. And I'll just open this item up for discussion.
Can I ask a question, please? Chair, is that okay?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, Director, I'm just wondering, through you to the Director, I'm just wondering whether if the allocation isn't all used by Christmas or before Christmas, can some of these activities or activations go into the early part of, January, which can also be sometimes a bit quiet and in need of activation? Is that possible, and do we need to note that in the recommendation, or just is that fine?
Chair, through you, I think that is possible, yes. So if we don't fully allocate the budget that we're proposing tonight, if that's the will of committee and council, and we can continue in that spirit of a block party type activity into the summer, I think that's an excellent suggestion.
Okay, so I guess the second question was just, do you want that reflected in the recommendation, or is that, I'm not sure, I haven't got the recommendation in front of me, so I can't see whether it would fit in at all.
Yeah, through you, I probably would suggest some kind of additional statement to the resolution.
Okay.
Number 4.
So if Councillor Dutter's happy to accept it in, I guess it would just say,
Chair, through you, if I may, it could be as simple as that any unexpended funds from the program proposed in point 2 be allocated for a block party program that
activation
continues into, or activation that continues into the summer.
Correct.
Words to that effect.
Thank you very much. So we'll add that as an amendment. Is the mover of the motion okay with that?
Yes, I'm quite happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Was there any other discussion on this item?
Yeah, I have few questions.
Go ahead.
The question is in regards to the 70,000 and the 30,000 allocation. What's the rationale behind this distribution to be demarcated in this way?
Chair, through you, we feel that the block parties, there's likely to be higher infrastructure costs with setting them up. So it's that simple. We think in terms of city centre entertainment, really that is about paying for a program of entertainers to perform throughout the city. So the cost is really about the group or the individual that we seek to hire, whereas the block parties could be things like if we're closing off some metered spaces, or there's a partial street closure, or if there's a small stage, or we want to bring in trestle tables onto the footpath or what have you. We just feel that there's likely to be a higher infrastructure cost associated with the block party idea because it's likely to attract more people to it.
Just another question. I am just reflecting on what happened here a few years ago in South Hobart when the precedent, the different groups got together to organize a get-together on the street party. Now, the idea for me is quite attractive. And if I was to get together with 3 other people in South Hobart as a business organization, will that be a conflict of interest? Will that disqualify me?
Chair, through you, again, part of this program, we won't be giving money to individual businesses. We will be paying bills for the different activities. So my first reaction is I can't see, Councillor Dutta, that would disqualify you. If perhaps it was you by yourself, of course, that may be a different issue. But if there are enough businesses, say, in the South Hobart precinct, I really can't see that to be a significant issue, no.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any more discussion on this item? Yes, Councillor Harvey.
With regard to the suburban strips, I like the idea of the tactical urbanism kind of opportunity, which is mentioned in 4.31. So they could be really fun, innovative, and an opportunity to test things for those suburban strips in conjunction with the businesses that are there. But I see this as a really good opportunity to develop something that might be something that gets kept in the future or is regularly used in those shopping strips if it can attract people to come and hang around a bit longer and spend a bit more money in those high street environments. So I look forward to seeing what the council or the officers come up with, because I think it's an exciting opportunity to do something innovative in those strips.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Lord Mayor, did you want to say something else, or your hand was, oh no, sorry. Your hand
sorry.
No worries.
That's all right.
Was there any other discussion on this item? Okay, if there are none, I would like to put the motion. Perhaps I'll just say, are there any no's? Maybe make it easier. So we'll vote on this motion now. Are there any no's? No, great. So I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 6.2, Housing with Dignity Reference Group Review. And once again, before I put the motion, I would call on the director just to say a few words about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Council will recall that it agreed to establish this group at the beginning of last year and asked for a report to come back after 12 months. Reasonably self-evidently, because of COVID, we've not come back until now. But this was Council's first attempt at having a supportive lived experience group in the homelessness sector. And I have to say to you, I think it's been a real success. Just the level of engagement from the members and the level of support from elected members and staff has really meant that this group has probably achieved more than we could have hoped for to begin with. And I think it's provided a really solid evidence base into the council. It's been very useful in terms of its relationship with the Greater Hobart Homelessness Alliance that the Lord Mayor chairs. And again, they've been able to provide some direct experience into that group. So based on that, and having a step back and considered the first 12 months of operation, it is our recommendation that the group continues and that previously you'll recall that Alderman Thomas was nominated as the first co-chair and Councillor Ewan also sat on that group. And as part of revitalising the group for this year, we would be seeking nominations for elected members to participate. Alderman Thomas, I understand, has indicated that he won't be proceeding with his participation in the group. I understand that Councillor Ewan is keen to continue. Of course, that's a matter once we get to council, but the normal practice is that the committee, any elected member might care to express their interest.
Thank you very much, Director. So I'll now just ask for someone to move the motion, please, and open up for discussion.
Happy to move it, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey. Were there any discussion on this issue? Did anybody want to nominate themselves or nominate somebody? Or yes, Councillor Dutta, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I've just got a few questions. And question number one is how many meetings have they had in the past year or so? Is it a monthly meeting or is it 4 times a year?
Chairman, through you, it started out as a meeting every 2 months. We actually had a facilitated set of meetings for the first few to help the group get to know each other and work out some goals and some opportunities for the year. So the intent was to start with 2 monthly meetings. There was enough work to go to a monthly meeting, but we have to accept that with some of the members attending a meeting either monthly or every 2 months actually is quite a big ask. And that's one of the learnings that we've had from the first year, that in fact, whether it be 2 months or 1 month, that's too many. And that's why we're suggesting in the recommendation to go to a quarterly meeting.
Thank you. And the other question is the budget allocation, I understand, is of $10,000. What constitutes this, and why this amount?
Chairman, through you, that is a small amount of money to enable the group to do some projects. So the group, and you'll see next week, is very active in Homelessness Week. And we have, for example, last year we engaged a specialist storyteller sound recordist to help record the stories of people that are suffering, are homeless. And those stories will be played next week. So elected members will become aware of that as part of Homelessness Week. So the budget allocation is to allow us to do some things for the group and with the group during the year. So it's not just a meeting, but we actually get to have some practical outcomes on the ground.
Thank you. And the final question through you, Chair, with regards to nominating, do we have to do it now or later at the council meeting?
Chair, through you, no, you don't have to do that now. It can be done at the council meeting. It's from time to time, elected members like to indicate their interest at committee first.
Yeah, I would be interested to join in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Datta. So sorry, just a question for me to you, Director. Do we note that and the nomination and then discuss it at council?
Chair, my understanding is that gets noted and gets put into the minute that then goes to council as part of council's consideration.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Was there any other discussion on this issue? No. Okay, well, if there's none, I'll put the motion to the vote. If there are any no's. Okay, there are none. I'll consider the motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item number 6.3, COVID-19 Resilient Hobart's grant summary. And once again, before I put the motion, I'd like to ask the director for an overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As was the case with the previous Economic Development Committee, I think this program or this report is something as elected members you should all be proud of, because it does show the agility that the council was able to move with during COVID, and it does demonstrate that we're able to change the grants program at reasonably short notice to really try and support our community at a time when they needed a lot of support. So the report outlines what we did. It outlines the 2 grant programs that were run in this space, and it gives you a listing of the successful projects. And I'm sure a number of you are well aware by your own networks within the community just how deep some of these projects ran and just the wonderful level of support that these grants have given to the community. Happy to take questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I please get somebody to move the item and then I'll open it up for discussion.
Happy to move.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey.
And through you, Chair, to the Director, I see the economic multiplier effect of this was quite significant as well. In item 4.4, the city invested 182,000 into funded activities through the 2 grant categories. Total value of the 61 projects supported projects is 510,000. This equates to a benefit of 282 generated for every dollar contributed by the city. So I think they're important figures that we probably should be highlighting about how successful these grants are, as well as other key indicators. So are we planning, or has this been covered yet by the media? And do we want to have it covered to show that we haven't been, sitting back, that the council's been very, proactive in supporting its community and businesses?
Chair, through you, I think some individual projects did receive some media at the time, but committee may wish to see a further recommendation that does talk about perhaps the chair and the Lord Mayor making some kind of media statement about the program, if you wish.
Yeah, look, I think it's really valuable to continuously highlight the good outcomes of council, that, this is a really positive story, and I think we couldn't, it doesn't do any harm to re-emphasise it. So shall I might add an amendment, or add to the motion that we an appropriate media response be delivered or created, or whatever the wording might be.
Yep. Is committee members okay with that?
I'll just include it in the recommendation, if that's
Yeah, fine by me.
okay.
And maybe that's a joint release by the Lord Mayor and the chair of the committee.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harvey. Are there any other discussions on this issue?
Can I ask a question? I don't really want to sort of make it a question on notice, because it's just, but it is related to one of these grants, and just see whether the director's got any thoughts. I've just been made aware that we gave some money to the Anglican Church, I think, at the Wellspring Anglican Church, of $1,000 to an initiative that they're doing, providing food to about 600 migrants and international students and temporary visa holders a week, I think. It's some remarkable number, and just seems like a huge amount of effort for a cohort that seemed to have really missed out on all of the other government support. And I was at Vinnie's the other day, and they said that all of their normal visitors to Louise Van are not coming as much, because the job seeker has been raised to a much more respectable level, but they're getting a lot of visits from these young migrants. And I just wanted the director's thoughts on to what extent that program, now that it's only got $1,000, I think, from the Resilient, whether that's on the radar of the department, and whether there's anything that can be suggested to that group.
Chair, through you, thank you for the question, Lord Mayor. That particular project is definitely on our radar. I think it's been oversubscribed beyond their expectation. There has been some talk of whether they would be seeking a further grant this financial year to help with that program, another quick response grant. I know that Alderman Thomas has been involved in working with that group as well. But I do think it's one that perhaps deserves some further attention, and maybe we might seek to meet with the church and just see what else is required, if the committee would like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking even just volunteers. I think it's logistically, I think they might even be getting quite a number of donations, but it might just be some of our regular volunteers who perhaps aren't working or haven't got anything to work normally on. We could direct them in that way.
Look, Chair, one of the issues I had heard through you was that the food packs that are given are quite large, and a lot of the students don't have transport, and so it's difficult to get on the bus with such a large box. So, and often late at night. So I know one of the issues that has been looked at is there a way of providing transport for the students and the food packages?
Yep.
Chairman, I drove past there last Sunday at about 4 o'clock, and there were queues right down the street from the church. There were hundreds of people standing in the queue waiting for this, waiting for these food parcels. So there's no doubt that there's a demand for it. I suspect that most of those people, as you quite rightly said, didn't drive. So there may well be issues with transport and other issues relating to that program.
Chair, with your indulgence, could I just ask Kimbra Parker just whether she has any further information on that particular project? I know Kimbra's online.
Yeah.
Kimbra, have you got anything else that you could add in about this particular one?
Through you, Chair, we have heard that they are working with the community services sector, and our suggestion potentially could be that they could apply for one of the larger community grants that open in August for $5,000, where potentially we could work with them and some of the community sector organisations to potentially bring a transport element into the program. So we're very happy to meet with the church and discuss grant opportunities and progress it in that way.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe just also if there's any volunteers that are, I know we've got a big army of city volunteers, don't we, that used to sort of guide cruise ships and the Tourist and Travel Centre, and whether some of those folks could be persuaded to assist.
Yeah, Chair, through you, there's absolutely no reason why we couldn't put that call out.
Thank you very much. I also noticed Mr. Joseph's hand is up. Would you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I'm
Mark, you've just gone on mute again.
Yes,
sorry,
please.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that. Just through you, Chair, we're working with Study Tasmania on developing an international student support grant. They had some funds that they needed to and wanted to get out to the community, but they weren't able to do that prior to the end of the financial year. So we're working closely with them on developing a grant using their funding, but our grants administration process to support organisations that are supporting international students. Their funds up to $2,000. So the church will be able to apply for those as well. So just wanted people to know that that's also in training.
Yes, thank you very much for that extra information. Appreciate it. Is there any more discussion on this item? Okay, if there are none, I'll put the motion and ask if there are any no's. If there are none, I declare it carried. Moving on to item 6.4, applications approved under the delegation authority of the Director, Community Life for Quick Responses Grants. And once again, I'd ask the Director to say a few words, if you wish.
I'm happy to move that they be received and noted, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Chair, I have nothing to add on this one.
Thank you very much. Are there any no's? We'll vote on this. If there are none, I declare the motion carried. And we'll move on to 6.5, conference reporting, change the story workshop. And that's me. So I'll just give a bit of a verbal account of what happened at the workshop. The Change the Story workshop was open to Tasmanian leaders, organisers and change makers. We heard from a speaker about her personal lived experience of violence and how she overcame these trials. The workshop went through various activities that were undertaken with people at our table as we discussed biases around male and female roles and other thought-provoking tasks. The workshop was aimed at discussing and outlining primary causes of violence against women and the connection between violence and gender inequality. It outlined some gender biases that begin from birth, from media outlets and within our institutional structures. It also sought to deliver ideas on primary prevention of violence against women through a culturally sensitive and inclusive viewpoint. It was a productive workshop that guided those involved into a wider conversation around violence against women. I'd now just like to put the motion. Would somebody like to move it?
Happy to be received and noted, Chairman.
Thank you. And do we need to vote on that as well? Are there any no's? If there's none, we'll move on. and declare that carried. On to number 7, the committee action status report. 7.1 committee actions status report. Can I have somebody to move that, please?
I move that be received and noted.
Thank you. Are there any no's on that? No, okay, that's carried. We'll move on to number 8, questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? No, okay. Declared that carried. Move on to number 9, which is closed portion of the meeting. I'd now like to declare this meeting closed.
I move that the closed portion be open and the open be closed, Jim.
Thank you very much, Alderman Sexton. I'll now close the meeting and we'll move into the close. And Craig, if you can stop the recording and let me know when we're right to go.